Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the Female Solution.
Hello, I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case, and I have a very special guest today. Her name is Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain, and she is the executive director of Live Free Illinois. Welcome, Reverend. How are you doing? How are you doing,
I
Reverend?
can't hear you.
Okay. All right. So let me explain a little bit about Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain, because she is a very active woman, very committed to social justice. And it's just, let's see. Okay. And she is very upset about the firing of the Deputy Mayor of Public Safety, Garion Gatewood. Everybody's talking about that. And they're upset because summer is right around the corner and there's no one to give them leadership. And because of the changes in that office, everyone's worried that crime will go back up. And crime has gone down in Chicago. Last year, murders were down 30%, and that's the lowest it's been in 6 decades. And the mayor has said that he is committed to making Chicago safe, but no one knows why. No one knows why. So that's the issue. That's the hottest issue in Chicago right now. So, can you hear me now, Reverend? Okay, she can't hear me now. But so it is a concern because there's so many guns in Chicago, and I don't think I don't think law enforcement people and the public will focus on the issue of gun runners, because they're the reasons why there's so much violence, because there are guns everywhere. It's like guns are a part of a child's uniform. They're proud to have one, and it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. So firing Garion Gatewood now, and this is the first day of spring, summer is right around the corner. I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen except the killing of more children, the killing of more mothers and fathers, uncles and cousins. And I hope that we are all wrong on this. And I have to believe that the mayor had a good reason. I heard so many rumors. I don't know what to believe. And no one's talking. So that too is very troubling. You got ministers organizing against the mayor, and that's not a good thing, because that's his rock. That's his base. So I'm hoping that the mayor will come forward and do something about this, to straighten everything out, to give us an answer why he fired Gatewood. Gatewood doesn't know. And basically he's saying that the atmosphere on the 5th floor is toxic. I don't understand that, and I think the mayor should explain that if it's true. If it's not true, he should talk. He should, just come before the cameras and give us some sort of answers, because right now rumors are dominating everything, and it's just rumors, and which I'm not going to repeat any rumors, but some of them are disturbing. But the fact that Gatewood said that, it was the atmosphere was very toxic is very concerning to me. It should not be that way at City Hall. But that's politics in Chicago. Reverend Chamberlain, can you hear me? Still can't hear me. All right.
No,
So,
I can hear you.
oh, you can hear. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Great. Now, so you're concerned about the firing of Gary and Gatewood. Why are you concerned?
More so in a sense that this is, we're on the brink of summer. This is the first day of spring today. And anytime there is, we know that when the weather is warmer, we have higher upticks in shootings. And so, with us being right here on the cups of summer and with the weather getting warmer, this is the time to where we need to make sure that we have plans in place for summer. And when you're transitioning the deputy mayor of public safety in the middle of this, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel like the community will have a strong sense of security in knowing that the city has a strategy and a plan for this. In addition to this, I think another issue that we've raised as the Faith Coalition is the need for an Office of Gun Violence Reduction. And so one of the reasons why we've advocated for this particular office is because we have recognized that the deputy mayor of public safety is a high turnover role. So despite the this administration naming that this role is first of its kind, there has been several deputy mayors of public safety. That position has been in place for years, but again, it is a high turnover rate. And so typically, what happens is anytime there is a new deputy mayor of public safety, there's a new strategy and a new vision, and the city cannot develop a long term strategy to attack gun violence when there's a new vision and a new person holding that vision every 2 years. With an Office of Gun Violence Reduction, there will be continuity and a long term vision and strategy for gun violence in Chicago. The mayor once stated that at the national level, he praised by the Biden administration, stating that this office was vital and essential for transformation. And so, with him praising that office at the national level, surely Chicago deserves an office of violence reduction because it is vital and necessary for transformation. So the disappointment is not only coming from him dismissing Gary and Gaywood on the cusp of one of our most violent seasons. It's also naming that we have advocated for years in naming the problem that we needed an office to hold a long-term strategy.
Absolutely. And you also want permanent funding, right?
That is correct. We believe that there has to be long-term investment in community-centered strategies. Of course, that doesn't negate that law enforcement has its role because law enforcement should absolutely be focused on actually improving clearance rates. I know another thing that this administration has done is celebrated an increase in clearance rates, or 77% clearance rates numbers, but we know that clearance rates does not necessarily equate to solve rates. And in this case, they have not equated to solve rates. So there is a role, but for as far as community and reducing gun violence, there absolutely needs to be a community centered violence reduction strategy that is fully funded. And the city has to be able to coordinate their portion of the vision and
Oh,
funding.
right. So are you in touch with the mayor's office? Are the ministers meeting with him on this? And
I'm sure there are some ministers that may be in contact with him. As far as some of the folks from our coalition, we have not spoken about the Office of Gun Violence Reduction ever since we met with the office maybe over a year ago. And the conversation after the office did agree to creating it, but the plans did not move forward. So that halted all of our continued conversations around the Office of Gun Violence Reduction or any strategies with the mayor's office.
I think to me, I think the minister should meet with the mayor at least once a month. Or am I wrong?
Again, I'm sure that he meets with some ministers in Chicago. There are still people or other clergy that meets with the mayor. And so I can't speak for all ministers or clergy. I can only speak for myself.
Okay. Well, I recommend to him, if he's listening or watching, to meet with the group of all sides, so South Side, North Side, all of you together, because summer is coming. Now, you have been very active in with the ICE agents too. You had a press conference in a snowstorm.
Yeah, it was cold outside that day. It was really
Yes.
cold. But yeah, we faith leaders from across Chicago organized. Really, it was faith leaders across the state that was organizing and resisting ICE because we know one that the federal administration that this is not simply about immigration. This is about us literally fighting for our democracy and fighting for our brothers and sisters. It is absolutely immoral for us to stand by and watch anybody be harmed by our government and we don't speak out as faith leaders. So again, we stood up and we advocated for the safety and to resist and to speak out against Christian nationalism that would support kidnapping people off of the street and caging babies. We spoke out against federal overreach and policies that have been weaponized against Black and Brown communities. Uh, and our faith leaders, we are still organizing, meeting, and strategizing to speak out against the federal administration and their overreach.
Well, how do you feel about the killing of the two Americans by the ICE agents, the border patrol agent?
Um, you know, anytime someone loses their life is is devastating. To to see that two white people lost their lives to the federal government. I think as a Black person, it is
All right, we lost her. Sure that she'll be back. It is very devastating to know that we have federal agents killing American citizens. And Petty was simply trying to help a woman who had been knocked to the ground by one of the agents. I mean, he died trying to be a hero.
yeah, but I think the piece that I'm naming is that when as a Black person, like historically, like we know that Black people have always been harmed by law enforcement. We have not had a relationship that has been protected by law enforcement. Like we know that historically, but to see two white people to die from state sanctioned violence, and then for the federal government and for the president to justify those killings, that sent a message that said that if they didn't care about them, God have mercy on us. So those particular murders, um, the execution in front of the country, uh, they try to send a fear tactic message, but this is why we organize Faith Over Fear, because we will not um, be pushed back or we will not be silenced through their fear tactics, and we will continue to advocate and speak out against injustice.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think about the president asking for $300 billion to continue a war in Iran that he says is almost over because he has, annihilated everything there, everything's destroyed, but he wants $300 billion, yet he cannot find the funds for SNAP program. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he is absolutely insane. That's what I think. I think that people have to make the math, or people have to use common sense.
Mhm.
This country and our people have to know that we cannot choose frivolous wars over feeding our people. This administration has shown that it is willing to literally starve its people and fund a war.
Yeah.
It is literally willing to allow its people to die by denying health care and other vital resources, but will advocate to fight these wars. It's absolutely insane, and it's disturbing that so many of our people have been hoodwinked to believe that this is patriotic and American.
Right. He says that he's the peace president. At least that's what he said when he was running, and that there would be no more wars. But yet he's picking another war, with Cuba right now, and he's got his eyes on Colombia too.
Again, I think, I mean, we see what's happening, and a lot of times they like to try to convince us that, you know, that we can't believe what we see.
Yep.
But
With
I
our
think
own
that this
eyes.
is why it's so important that we organize, that we vote, that we continue to lock arms with people not only in Illinois but across this country. Because if we do nothing, we know that there's a high chance that we move into an authoritarian regime. So we have to organize, we have to fight back, and it can't just be a cliche. It has to be faith communities, everyday block clubs. Everyone has to educate themselves and organize and be active. We have to continue to post on social media, continue to combat narratives that are harmful. We have to continue to do all that we know to do collectively to fight back against this administration. And I will say that although it looks scary, through organizing, we are winning. So I just believe that if we continue to collectively do the organizing work and do and as faith leaders answer our prophetic calls, that we will win against this administration.
Well, I hope your thoughts and your predictions are true. I want to get your opinion about the election right after the commercial. We'll be back with more of On the Case and Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain right after this.
We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadef. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network. Call 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
And we're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. And my guest is Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain, and she is executive director of Live Free Illinois. She is into so much. And I wanted to get your opinion about the election. Were you quite disappointed? Were you disappointed, Reverend?
Um, I'm not gonna say disappointed. So one, I will say that I was rooting for a black woman to win U.S. Senate. We know that there has only been 14 black U.S. senators in history. So to see history being made in Illinois, where we had two very qualified black women who are running for U.S. Senate, I think they made black girls and women proud across the state. Um, and one particular candidate was able to win and be another black woman who will stand and fight against um, the federal administration. And so I am confident that she will be able to lead in the U.S. Senate. And so I am excited and as a black woman and proud to see that. As far as for the election in itself, I'm always a bit disappointed when we have so many races where a lot of people run unopposed. I believe that it is healthy for elections to have opponents in primaries, because I think that when people have to earn the vote of their communities, that people are accountable to their communities. And right now, when there's so much, a lot of times people are saying like, "Oh, there's APAC money in races." I mean, a lot of people aren't like that. I don't think that the average voter is paying attention to like, "Oh, there's APAC money in the race." I'm concerned about that. Um, but I think that we really have to make sure that our people are turning out, not only registering to vote, but actually turning out to vote. So I was more so disappointed by the lack of turnout, and again, making sure that we have primaries where there are challengers, because too often in black communities, we see our elected officials aren't as accountable to us. And in a sense, they don't have to be accountable when they can run year after year unopposed. And so their accountability is more toward those who are funding them versus towards their community. And so that was sort of like my read and my analysis on it. I'm hoping that over the next few months, that we can do a significant amount of voter turnout work, but we know that in Illinois, that the real meat of our elections are won in the primaries.
Absolutely. Now, you said that most people don't care about the PAC money, but a lot of people were very concerned about that, because when you take money from PACs like that, you're really beholding to them and their agenda.
So I'm saying the average voter.
Okay.
I don't think that the average voter is aware of what that means. And I think that we have to do more political education on helping our our people and community understand why our our voting and our accountability looks the way it looks, because you're right, it becomes about the money, and people are about more beholden to the money versus being beholden to the people that they serve. And so we just have to remind people what democracy is about. And I think it really makes it hard for us to really function in a true democracy when the system itself isn't working. When we're looking in some races to where you have, the voter turnout is so low, that's you don't have representation. You have a few people that are putting people into office, but they're not representing the voices of the majority of the people in their district, because the majority of the people in their district are not voting, and they may not. And a lot of people are not voting because they have just completely disengaged from the system. And so we have to reactivate our people because democracy does play a major role in how our community transform. And so we have to help people to understand that and reactivate the voters.
Absolutely. But I think also you should educate the candidates because they need to know that if they take PAC money, they can't be beholden to the PAC's agenda, which is usually against the community.
Yeah, I don't think it's about educating the candidates. I think it's about holding the candidates accountable.
Accountable.
You're like, yeah, and that's the piece. Like they know what they're taking, but they need to be able to feel the accountability from the community. And that is if they are not representative of the voices and standing on the side of the people. And some of it is not only, a lot of them will make the right votes, but some of it is also making sure that resources and new ideas and strategies and economic development. And some of it is basic respect, being kind and responsive to constituents. Like a lot of that boils down to being accountable to their constituency.
Right, because if and education is important because if we don't do a better job in educating the electorate, then Trump is going to win, and his men and women will be right back in office in November. That's the Super Bowl of this whole election, November 5th. So how do you feel about that?
Um, I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So we have 8 months to educate the public to come out this time because everything that we've been fighting for these past months will be lost because Trump will win. His people will be back in and he'll still be in power. So what will this coalition of ministers do to increase voter um, turnout?
So I think that's the piece that Illinois has to wake up on and make sure that we don't get caught being there's a story that tells like the frog in the pot and how the frog is in the pot, the water is boiling, and the frog by the time the frog hops out of the pot, the frog is basically cooked and it's too late. I think it's important that Illinois does not sleep because there are people who are working on the alternative side to organize against us. And so while we are taking our vote for granted, they are being empowered by their vote. And so I think that we have to continue, not just in the general election, but year round.
Yes. And so, and that's very true. We'll get her image back in a few minutes. That's very true that we do have to continue to educate people because months go by and before elections, and people forget the voter apathy. But I think that a lot of this is caused by President Trump because every day there's an issue or two issues that he puts out there and it takes your mind off of the election, and that's his goal. His goal also is to um, take the attention away from the Epstein files. He claims that he had nothing to do with him for years and years, but yet his name is in there over and over and over again, and there are files in there mentioning about 14-year-old girls. Now we don't know for sure because we have to still prove that allegedly he may have had sex with 14-year-old girls. Um, I have to wonder why is he fighting so very hard to take attention away from the Epstein files, and I really think that that is the big issue right now, and why he went to war illegally. That war in Iran is illegal. His people say no, he can do anything he wants to, and that's what Netanyahu said too. that nobody can tell the president what to do. Well, it shouldn't be that way. I know he has control. He has a trifectorate right now. His people are in charge of, well, he's the Republican president, and he has control politically in the House and the Senate. That's a trifectorate. And the Supreme Court, too. Okay, so that's the fourth thing that's very troubling. But it's hard to hold somebody accountable when you don't have the numbers. And if we don't come out in November 5th, when big numbers, bigger than this primary, because this primary, too many people stayed home, too many people went fishing. We can't afford to go on vacations on election day. Too much is at stake. Too much is at stake. So we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more of On the Case right after this.
Peace and love. I'm Michelle Renee, host of Education Nation, live on the Female Solution Global Network every second and fourth Sunday from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. The intention of Education Nation is to raise awareness about the literacy crisis and to offer information to combat the problem. The goal is to awaken an army of reading coaches and mentors. You will experience guests who are doing their part in the community to ensure youth in their circles are reading and thinking critically. I look forward to serving you in this capacity. Literacy is freedom, and Education Nation will offer information and strategies to help ensure our young people stay free.
In which we're doing this documentary for Douglas Robinson, Your Death Will Not Be in Vain.
He was a heck of a great dude.
And I love Doug. Doug loved me.
Just being around him, he had a good spirit. He was a healing person.
They are there.
Get SROs back.
When you give to the poor,
should not be forced out of their neighborhoods when it goes through a period of transformation.
Because there are too many people who are losing their homes to taxes because they can't pay a $1,000 tax bill.
And we're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer and host of On the Case. And do we still have Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain with us? She had an event to go to, so I wanted to talk to her too because she has so many other programs. One is to reduce prison population because there are like 3.3 million people with arrest and conviction records that if they're expunged and automatic sealing of their records, they can be free of that label. It's like if you're if you have an X on your back and you've paid your price, then you're punished for the rest of your life. And it really shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't be that way. And I'm also concerned about this war. It is illegal. I don't care what Trump says, and he says he's blown everything up in Iran, but he still cannot give us a reason why he went to war in the first place. You know, and I think it's wrong for him to do that. I know it's wrong for him to do that, because just because the Supreme Court gave him immunity to do what he wants to do as long as he's in office does not give him a right to break the law. And he is breaking the law, because you're supposed to have congressional approval before you start a war. He didn't even tell European allies. And now he's upset because they won't help him protect that waterway where the oil can go through. I forget the name of it. But, and I don't blame them, because as they say, and as I've been saying, that's not our war. And what he did in Venezuela is unprecedented, and it too was illegal. So when when will Republicans, his allies, his co-conspirators, as I call them, when will they realize what they're doing and that they are part of this? And they can stop him from doing this, because if he doesn't have the support, he's not going to be doing this. But more important, if we come out November 5th, Tuesday, November 5th, in droves and elect Democrats, let Democrats take over again the House and the Senate, we can do right. And I think the Democrats will be fair. They won't do like the Republicans did, take away billions of dollars from children's SNAP program. That wasn't just for children. It was also for the elderly, you know, and I see so many hungry people on the street. It hurts me. It hurts me. It hurts me what he did to the homeless people in Washington, D.C. He was upset because his guests got offended when they saw the tent cities there. So what did he do? He spent millions of dollars cleaning up the parks, tearing down and throwing away the belongings of the homeless to make them not visible. So they're invisible homeless people. No, they're not invisible. They're there somewhere, not getting the care that they need. And that's in most of the Republican cities as well. So, you know, I don't think people understand, and I'm not just talking about Black people, I'm talking about the average American. I don't think they understand the power that they have that lies in their hands. Just voting makes a difference. Voting can stop this president from taking away our rights. And there is a safety act, a voting safety act, where he's going to make voters prove that they're Americans. Can you imagine? Then you have to bring your birth certificate. Most people don't know where their birth certificate is, or they have to file for one, and some people can't afford the fee. But then he's talking about, or passports, and I think that's like $130, $40. How many people can afford that? Especially the ones who live in urban areas, not urban areas, but rural areas, and in the African American communities, inner cities. It's just not right what he's doing. Basically, he's trying to steal the election again. He's trying to very, very hard. And in doing so, he comes across very racist. And that has enticed others with like-minded people to come out and just do crazy things, racist, and say racist things. And there's another thing that bothers me about this president is that he curses in public, while the cameras are rolling. What do you think our children are thinking? You know, he's a poor example for our children. And that is very hurtful to me, because that's the highest office in the land. And yet we can't even look at the U.S. Justice Department for help because they're complicit. They have weaponized that office and all of the other offices against Americans just to get President Trump what he wants. And he is ruling by revenge. He is the president of the blue states, not the red, just the red states. He's the president of the red states, not the blue states. And he's picking on the blue states, suing them for fraud, like in Minnesota, and going against certain ethnic groups there. And it's increased racism in America, racism against the Jews. He has called Muslims names. He's called Black people names. He's called Africans the S-hole. We just never had anything this horrible and this demeaning in America before in the White House. And sitting in the Oval Office, where he has redecorated the office in gold. Everything is gold. I'm surprised his teeth, he didn't put a gold covering over his teeth, everything is about money. And when I hear of him going after Colombia, Colombia is on his hit list too. It's always something about money he wants. Their minerals, or the airplane that was given to him, which was illegal. He even asked the African chief if he had an airplane for him. And his children are making so many millions and millions of dollars from foreigners, and that is illegal. So where are we going here? What can we do about it? That is the big question. That is a huge question. And I don't have any answers because he hits us every day with something new. And this Epstein file is really troubling to me as a woman. And the rumors, not rumors, but there are legal documents linking him to 14-year-old girls. Now, I don't know if he had sex with them. I'm hearing that he did, but I don't know that for sure. But every time that comes out, then he comes up with some crazy thing like the war in Iran or picking fights with our allies. He's making America an isolated nation, and that's very dangerous. And we're also under high alert by the feds because of his actions, because the Iranians will probably try to get even with us on our soil. That is my biggest fear. Will we have another New York incident? And there are drones flying around over military sites in America. I think there were 15 of them, and there was nothing they can do to stop them. That's very dangerous because they were so sophisticated. So whose drones were those? We don't even know that, or if they do know, they're not telling us. So we're living in fear every day because of a man who is just he wants to be powerful. He wants to be in control, and more important, he wants to get even with the Democrats because he is a felon. He's a felon with a track record that is just horrible, especially the way he treats women. And it took his wife, Melania, to make him stop being so, have his ICE agents stop being so aggressive. Otherwise, that would too have been continued. She had a talk with him, and I'm glad she did. And that's why he's eased up on that. But he never should have allowed ICE agents to throw pepper balls and all kind of gas at the residents and shoot them and kill them. Here there's a president, he's sicking the military on his own citizens, on Americans. That is un-American. he is un-American. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more of On the Case right after this.
Leaders of nonprofits empowering worlds. Let's go.
But the vision that God gave me, I felt that it was time for me to step out and work on the vision that God gave me.
We need look no further. We have a unique voice. We have a unique talent pool.
Welcome to Masterforce with Mushim Soot. Join us each week on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central, live on Facebook and YouTube on the Female Solution page, as we dive into powerful topics designed to assist you in mastering your life force. Our conversations feature a diverse lineup of experts, all dedicated to your growth. Tune in weekly to discover new ways to elevate your spirit and raise your vibration. And remember, we are ascending.
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health.
We're back. I'm Chinta Strausberg, producer of On the Case, and I am glad that the election is over, the primary, and I am somewhat happy about the outcome, but too many people stayed at home. You cannot go fishing or on vacation on election day. But I am glad that Representative LaShawn Ford did win the seat held by the awesome Congressman Danny K. Davis, who served 15 terms. So at least we won that one. And Juliana Stratton is going to be a senator if she wins in November, and it's almost certain that both of them will win. Now, there's been a lot of talk about the former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., but I think he did well, given the fact that he has not been around very long, kind of detached from his base, but he did, she won over 9,000 votes more than he did. He was second in the race too. So I would not count him out. Definitely I would not count Jesse Jr. out, because DNA, politics is in his DNA. And I just think he needs more time to do more in his district, so people will know, yes, he's back, and he has asked for forgiveness. And I don't think that should be a litmus test, because you got a 34 count felon in the White House, and yet he's there for the second time. Okay, so we have to support our own people and not turn our backs on someone who's made a mistake. We all make mistakes. But I am glad that those who won did win. And I'm hoping that younger people will step up and start running, because we need new people in there as well. We need both. And I am so sorry about the death of Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. I covered him since 1981. And I had promised the community that I would always cover Rainbow Push Coalition. I still do, for the Chicago Crusader newspaper. And my magazine, the 316 magazine, I'm editor-in-chief of that. And I'm devoted to doing that. And people ask me, why did you spend so much time? Every Saturday, I was at Rainbow Push Coalition. Most of the time, like 98% of the time, the only reporter there. But I did it because Reverend Jackson was like a big brother to me. He was my Black history teacher that I never had. When we were growing up, my parents were, and parents and grandparents were very protective of their children. They never told us about slavery. Of course, we never learned that in school. We had European history, which I aced, but I didn't know about slavery. And I'm sorry about that, but I'm learning now. And Reverend Jackson helped me very, very much in learning about my own people and the history of what has happened to us. Because some people call it a dirty little secret. It was not a secret. It was just kept from us. And that's another thing that Trump is trying to erase our history. He already erased my cousin's history. My cousin was Milton Lee Olive III. He was 18 years old from Inglewood. He joined the Army as a teenager. He got injured, got a Purple Heart, but he was a parachuter. And then he went back. He told my grandmother, he said, I have to go back and finish my job. Well, on October 22nd, 1965, he was in Vietnam in the jungle, and he spotted a live grenade. Well, he grabbed the grenade, placed it on his stomach, allowing it to explode. That heroic act saved the lives of 4 men, 2 African Americans and 2 whites. The only surviving person now is retired Captain Jimmy Stanford, who lives in Texas. We keep in touch. And Stanford told me that he used to be a racist because in Texas, that's what you were when you were white. You were racist. But now he's not, because Skipper, as we call my cousin, saved his life. He saw the grenade, but he froze. My cousin grabbed it and saved the lives of 4 men. But that history has been erased by Hegseth and at the orders of Trump, because he's Black. And that is so wrong. It's making me understand even more and more about what African Americans went through in the South decades ago. This racism is just despicable. It's wrong, and it's just not right. But then I was telling my brother last night how we were talking about the same thing, how we didn't know about all this stuff. And I reminded him when white people in the South went to church, after service, there was a gathering at a tree, and they would put a Black person, hang them by a noose on a tree, and it was like a ceremony, and the little children would be watching. And then after the body was dead, they would sing Amazing Grace. Can you imagine? Amazing Grace. But they used the Bible to justify slavery. I don't know which Bible they use. It's not in my Bible that it's okay to kill. It's not okay to kill a person. It's not okay to deprive children from food, as this president is doing. And that's why we're going to miss Reverend Jackson, because he was on the issues all the time, absolutely on the issues. And working for him was an honor. He would tell me, don't forget to read Alternate. Don't forget to read Politico. He says, our children need to read more. I used to buy him newspapers every single day. That was part of my job. The New York Times, the USA Today, Sun-Times Tribune. Of course, he wanted the Black papers as well. And he would read all of them. He reminded me of Merrill Washington. I covered Merrill Washington as well. He was an avid reader as well. but we're going to miss Reverend Jackson very much. And I remember one time he was at the Hyde Park High School talking about politics. And he said, well, I got to go on. He said, take some notes for me. And I said, oh, notes. Okay. So when he got back, he said, let me see my notes. So I showed him the paper and he said, what is this? And I said, it's your notes. I had written it in shorthand. He cracked up. He said, what? So I learned when he said, do notes, not to do it in shorthand. But the times that I enjoyed him most was the times when we were alone, when no one would say, oh, don't talk about that, yet. He knew what he wanted out, and he would give me a story, and I would have it published in the Chicago Crusader, and I'd like to thank Dorothy Lavelle for publishing that as well. But I'm going to miss him a lot. I miss traveling with him, and when we traveled together, that's another story. There were so many people at the airports. They would stop him and take pictures all the time. And even when we were at restaurants, people would come up and say, "Can I get a picture?" And because he had that charisma. And it was not just Black people; it was mostly white people, actually, who would come up and say, "There's Jesse," and then some of the African Americans, like in Milwaukee, would say, "Run, Jesse, run." He wasn't running for office, but it was like a slogan that we support you, brother, and he's just going to be missed so much. And I knew that he was going to. We all knew that he was going to die because of his fatal disease that had no cure. I think his father had a similar disease. But I had hoped that he would live a little bit longer. But we never know when God is going to take us. Believe me, I know that very much. I've lost my husband on our honeymoon. I lost my grandmother, my beloved grandmother. Her birthday was just 3 days ago. So my mom is gone, my dad is gone. Death is so final. And life without Reverend Jackson is going to be very hard because no one can fill his shoes. But we all have to work together to continue to pick up the mantle and to continue the social agenda that Reverend Jackson had. He was in turn carrying out Dr. King's agenda. So this is like a Dr. King, Reverend Jackson social justice agenda that we have to continue. Voter registration is very important. We need to get our children involved in that. We need this to be, and I'm glad that there is a bill now where if it passes, and the Illinois Speaker, Emanuel Chris Welch, has promised that it will be passed, that children now, when they graduate from high school, they will have the diploma in one hand and a registration card in the other. And that's what Reverend Jackson used to tell me all the time. That's what he wanted. So in death, that he will have his wish approved and be a part of the school curriculum. And I'm hoping too that they will reinstitute civics. We had civics. It helped us understand government, although we did not know anything about Black history, of course. That's the sad part of it. But teaching our children about government is very, very important. And it makes them realize that they are part of the government and the power that they have in a vote. We do have the power. We do have the power. We just have to stay united. And it can't be like the West Side versus the South Side. When I was a reporter with the Chicago Defender, I tried so hard to get the South Side and the West Side to work together, particularly in construction. And I finally gave up when a couple of them told me, well, that's not going to happen, Chinta. So you need to just stop. And I said, why? Because he says we don't trust each other with the money. So as a result, whites get together and they make bids on billion dollar contracts, and they get most of the jobs, most of the money. So we have a long way to go. And I just, I know, I'm just missing Reverend Jackson right now. But that too shall pass. That too shall pass because he's at peace. So I want to say thank you for being with me. Thank you, Reverend Ciera Bates-Chamberlain. She's executive director of the Live Free Illinois. Thank you for being a guest on the case. And I'll see you next Friday. Thank you for listening and watching.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings.